The voicemail sits in my phone like a ticking bomb. 3 days now, and I still haven't played it. Father's name glows on the screen, a name I haven't seen flash there in 2 years. Hey friends! Another tale awaits us today. I'm always curious about my listeners. Which corner of the world are you watching from? Share below. And if you enjoy these stories, becoming part of our family is just one subscribe away. Let's dive in. I'm Valentina, and this moment feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. The cursor hovers over the play button while my other hand clutches a glass of Cabernet, already half empty. My apartment feels too quiet, too still, as if the world is holding its breath. Just delete it, Lucas says from the kitchen, his voice gentle but firm. He knows the history, knows how each interaction with my father leaves fresh scars. You don't owe him anything. I know. But my finger betrays me, pressing play before I can stop myself. Val. Father's voice trembles through the speaker. I know I have no right to ask, but things aren't what they seem. Elaine she's. God, I've been such a fool. Please call me back. Please. The glass nearly slips from my hand. 2 years of silence, and now this? A desperate plea wrapped in cryptic warnings about his precious wife, the woman who systematically destroyed our family while wearing a smile like poisoned honey. What did he say? Lucas appears beside me, dish towel still in hand. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. The wine burns going down. He's finally figured out what Elaine really is. Only took him 8 years. My phone buzzes again, grandmother Maggie's name flashing this time. My stomach drops. She never calls this late unless something's wrong. Valentina, you need to come home, she says without preamble. Your father. There's something wrong. Really wrong. Elaine's been moving money around, selling things behind his back. He's not himself. When has he ever been himself since she showed up? The words come out sharp enough to cut. This is different. Maggie's voice hardens. I found documents in her study. Things about your mother's accident that don't add up. Val, I think. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. Lucas touches my shoulder, but I barely feel it. All I can see is my mother's face, frozen in that last photograph before the car accident. Before Elaine swooped in to help father through his grief. I have to go back, I whisper, the words tasting like ash. I'll come with you. No. I stand, already moving toward the bedroom. I need to do this alone. Whatever's waiting there. It's between me and them. My hands shake as I pull out my overnight bag. 8 years of watching Elaine systematically isolate my father, of enduring her subtle jabs and manufactured dramas. 8 years of watching her transform my vibrant, loving father into a hollow-eyed stranger who chose her lies over his own daughter. My phone buzzes one more time, a text from an unknown number. If you're coming home, be careful. Elaine knows people are asking questions. She's dangerous when cornered. Oliver Reed. I haven't heard from him since high school, before he became a private investigator. Before everything fell apart. I pack quickly, mechanically, while Lucas watches from the doorway. He knows better than to argue. The rage I've suppressed for years burns hot and clean now, focusing my thoughts to a sharp point. What are you going to do? He asks finally. I zip the bag closed, meeting his eyes in the mirror. Whatever it takes to get my father back. And if Elaine really had something to do with my mother's death. I let the sentence hang unfinished. Some promises don't need to be spoken aloud. Some vengeance writes itself in blood. The iron gates of my childhood home loom before me, their familiar scrollwork now seeming more like prison bars than decoration. Father's Mercedes isn't in the circular driveway, just Elaine's gleaming white Lexus, pristine as ever. Like her, it's all surface shine and calculated presence. I park behind it, deliberately close. Let her worry about door dings. The front door opens before I reach it. Elaine stands there in her signature pearl gray dress, not a hair out of place. Valentina, darling. What an unexpected pleasure. Her voice drips artificial sweetness, but her eyes are sharp as razors. She doesn't move from the doorway. Where's my father? I keep my tone flat, professional. The kind I use with difficult clients. Thomas is resting. He's been under the weather. She steps aside, finally, her designer heels clicking against the marble foyer. I'm sure whatever brought you here can wait until. Val. Father's voice drifts down from upstairs, weak but urgent. Is that you? I brush past Elaine, taking the stairs two at a time. Behind me, her breath catches a small, angry sound. Father sits in his study, surrounded by scattered papers and empty coffee cups. The sight of him hits me like a physical blow. His face is gaunt, hair more gray than black now. The confident entrepreneur who once commanded boardrooms has been replaced by someone diminished. You came. He tries to stand, stumbles slightly. I wasn't sure. Sit down, Thomas. Elaine appears beside me, all concern and flutter. You know what Dr. Reynolds said about overexerting yourself. I'm fine. But he sits, avoiding my eyes. Val, I need to tell you. Thomas, darling, you're exhausted. Why don't I make us all some tea? Elaine's hand rests on his shoulder, perfectly manicured nails digging in slightly. A warning. I step closer to his desk, pretending to study the papers there. Most are financial documents, but one catches my eye. Transfer papers for the lake house. Mother's favorite place. The date on them is last week. You're selling the lake house? The question comes out sharper than intended. Father's face crumples. It's complicated, sweetheart. The business. There have been some setbacks. What your father means, Elaine cuts in smoothly, is that we're restructuring our assets. Nothing for you to worry about. Really? I pull out my phone, fingers steady as I type. Because according to the county records, the lake house was transferred to a shell company owned by Marcus Davidson. Isn't he your ex-husband, Elaine? The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Elaine's perfect mask slips for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. You've been investigating me? Her voice is soft, dangerous. Maggie called me. I meet her gaze directly, right before someone conveniently cut off her phone service. Your grandmother is becoming quite paranoid in her old age. Elaine moves between me and father, a subtle repositioning of power. Making accusations, spreading rumors. It's sad, really. Is that why you're isolating father from everyone who cares about him? Why you're selling off his assets piece by piece? That's enough. Father's fist hits the desk, but there's more desperation than authority in the gesture. Val, you don't understand. Elaine's been helping me. The business. Has she? I pull out another piece of paper, a copy of the letter Oliver sent me. Then why did $3 million move from your business account to an offshore holding company last month? A company registered to her maiden name. Elaine's composure cracks completely. You little bitch. You think you can walk in here after 2 years and get out. Father's voice is barely a whisper. Thomas, she's trying to get out. He stands, swaying slightly. Both of you. I need to think. I back toward the door, never taking my eyes off Elaine. Her face is a study in contained fury, but there's something else there too. Fear. This isn't over, she hisses as we reach the hallway. No, I agree quietly. It's just beginning. I leave them there, father broken in his study, Elaine seething in the hallway. But as I drive away, my phone buzzes with a text from Oliver. Found something about your mother's accident. Meet me tonight. Alone. The game is changing. And this time I'm playing to win. The neon sign of Rusty's bar flickers against rain-slicked windows. Oliver sits in the darkest corner, exactly where he said he'd be. 8 years have aged him, his face harder, stubbled jaw set in grim lines. A manila envelope sits untouched beside his whiskey. You're late, he says as I slide into the booth. Elaine had someone following me. Had to take the long way. I order bourbon when the waitress passes. What did you find? Oliver's fingers drum against the envelope. Before I show you this, are you sure you want to know? Some doors don't close once they're opened. She's destroying my father. Whatever's in there, I need to know. He slides the envelope over. Inside are financial records, photographs, newspaper clippings. One photo makes my hands shake. Elaine with a man I don't recognize, taken 2 days before my mother's accident. Marcus Davidson, Oliver says quietly. Her ex-husband. The one she claimed was out of the picture years before she met your father. The same Marcus Davidson who now owns our lake house? Keep looking. The next document is a police report. My mother's accident. Brake lines cut, ruled mechanical failure. But there's a witness statement that was never followed up, describing a dark sedan following her car that night. The witness disappeared before they could make an official statement, Oliver continues. But I found him. Living under a new name in Arizona. Scared as hell when I mentioned Elaine. My bourbon arrives. I drain it in one burning swallow. There's more, Oliver says. Davidson owned a company that specialized in corporate takeovers. Hostile ones. They'd find vulnerable businesses, create financial crises, then swoop in to save them, for pennies on the dollar. Like what's happening to Father's company now. Exactly like that. And guess who was Davidson's financial advisor back then? The pieces click into place. Elaine. She's running the same play she helped Davidson perfect. Create a crisis, isolate the target, then strip everything valuable before anyone realizes what's happening. My phone buzzes, a text from Lucas. Elaine just left your father's house. She looked scared. What's going on? Before I can respond, Oliver tenses. Through the window, I see a familiar white Lexus pulling into the parking lot. She followed you here, Oliver mutters, already moving. Back door. Now. We slip through the kitchen just as Elaine enters the bar. But in the alley, a man steps out of the shadows. Marcus Davidson, older than his photo but unmistakable. Miss Carter, he says smoothly. We need to talk about your interference in family matters. Family matters? The words taste like poison. Like how you and Elaine arranged my mother's accident. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Accidents are tragic things. So unpredictable. Like that brake line you had serviced last week. Who knows if the mechanic did everything properly? My blood runs cold. Oliver steps forward, but Davidson raises a hand. Just a friendly warning. Elaine's worked very hard for her position. It would be a shame if more accidents started happening. To you, to your grandmother, to that handsome fiancé of yours. You're threatening the wrong person. My voice is steady, surprising me. I'm not my father. I don't back down. No. He produces a phone, plays a video. Father in his study, signing documents. His hands shake as Elaine guides them. Your father's not well, Valentina. Early onset dementia, the doctors say. Such a shame. But Elaine has power of attorney now. Everything's perfectly legal. The world tilts sideways. Oliver catches my arm as I sway. You have 24 hours to leave town, Davidson continues. Or the next accident won't be a warning. He melts back into the shadows, leaving me clutching the envelope of evidence that's now worthless. Legal documents trump truth every time. Val, Oliver starts, but I cut him off. Get me everything you have on Davidson. Every dirty deal. Every skeleton. If they want to play hardball. I straighten, fury burning away fear. Then let's show them how it's really done. Behind us, the bar's neon sign sputters and dies, plunging the alley into darkness. But I've never seen more clearly. Grandmother Maggie's house smells like cinnamon and gunpowder. She's at her kitchen table, cleaning her husband's old revolver with practiced hands. Her phone sits in pieces beside her, evidence of Elaine's interference. So they're threatening accidents now? She doesn't look up from her work. History repeating itself. You knew. The accusation slips out before I can stop it. About mother's accident. About Elaine and Davidson. Suspicions aren't proof. She slides the cylinder back into place with a click. And your father wouldn't listen. Love makes fools of the wisest men. My phone buzzes, Lucas again. I silence it without reading the message. He doesn't understand why I won't let him help, why I've pushed him away since Davidson's threat. They have power of attorney, I say. Father's signature on everything. It's over. Maggie's hand slams down hard enough to rattle her teacup. Nothing's over until we're dead. And I'm not dead yet. She pulls out a worn leather diary from a drawer. Mother's handwriting fills the pages, growing more frantic toward the end. The last entry is dated 3 days before her death. Meeting with medical doctor again. Transfer papers ready. Must tell Thomas before. The entry ends mid-sentence. Found this in her desk after the funeral, Maggie says. Elaine got to everything else first, But she missed this. A key falls from between the pages, old, brass, with the bank's logo. Safety deposit box, Maggie explains. Your mother was always careful. Always had backup plans. My hands shake as I pick up the key. Why didn't you tell me before? Because you weren't ready to burn everything down. She meets my eyes. Are you ready now? Before I can answer, headlights sweep across the windows. A car pulling into the driveway. Father's Mercedes. Valentina. His voice is stronger than at the house. More like his old self. I know you're here. We need to talk. I move to the window. He's alone, but something's off about his posture, his movements. The back door, Maggie whispers urgently. Go. Now. But I'm tired of running. I open the front door. Father stands there, swaying slightly. His eyes are glassy, unfocused. You have to stop, sweetheart. Elaine. She's trying to help. The business. When did you last take your medication, Father? He blinks, confused. Elaine handles. She knows what's best. Thomas Carter. Maggie's voice cuts through the night. What pills has that woman been giving you? Another car approaches, the white Lexus. My heart races as Father grabs my arm, his grip desperate. Please, he whispers. I remember things sometimes. When the fog clears. Your mother. She tried to warn me. But Elaine's medication helps. Makes everything quiet again. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. Not dementia, drugs. Elaine's been drugging him, keeping him compliant while she and Davidson dismantle his life. Get inside, I tell him, but he pulls away. Can't. Promised Elaine. Supposed to bring you home. The Lexus stops. Elaine steps out, Davidson behind her. Thomas, darling, she calls. Time for your evening medication. Father moves toward her, voice like a puppet on strings. I start after him, but Maggie's hand catches my shoulder. The diary, she hisses. The safety deposit box. That's your mother's real legacy. Choose your battlefield carefully. I watch Father get into Elaine's car. Watch Davidson's satisfied smirk as they drive away. The key burns in my pocket like a live coal. Tomorrow, I say quietly. The bank opens at 9. Maggie nods, understanding everything I'm not saying. The revolver disappears into her drawer, but we both know it won't stay there long. Sometimes saving someone means losing them first. Sometimes revenge means watching the people you love walk away, knowing it's the only way to set them free. The night stretches ahead, full of possibilities and promises. By morning, everything will change. The safety deposit box contains exactly 3 items: a USB drive, a handwritten letter, and an old photograph of Elaine with Davidson and another man I don't recognize. They're standing in front of a building that burned down 8 years ago, Father's first company headquarters. My hands shake as I plug the USB drive into my laptop. Files appear, hundreds of them. Financial records, emails, surveillance photos. My mother had been building a case, documenting everything. Your mother was thorough, Oliver says beside me. We're in his office, surrounded by case files and coffee cups. But this last piece. He taps the photograph. This changes everything. The third man in the photo is Dr. Reynolds, the same doctor now prescribing Father's medication. My phone rings, Lucas again. I silence it, ignoring the twist of guilt in my gut. Pushing him away hurts, but it's better than making him a target. Reynolds was their inside man, Oliver continues. He helped them take down other companies before yours. Create health crises. Manipulate records. The office door bursts open. Elaine stands there, perfectly composed except for the wild look in her eyes. Davidson looms behind her like a shadow. I wondered how long it would take you to find that box, she says quietly. Your mother was always too clever for her own good. Oliver reaches for his desk drawer, but Davidson's faster. The gun appears almost casually in his hand. Let's all stay civil, Davidson says. We're here to negotiate. Negotiate. The word tastes like acid. You killed my mother. Accidents happen. Elaine steps forward, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Just like they could happen to your grandmother. Or that sweet fiancé of yours. Lucas, isn't it? He works on the 10th floor of the Morton building. Such dangerous elevators in that place. My nails dig into my palms. What do you want? The USB drive. The files. Everything your mother collected. Her mask slips, showing something desperate underneath. Walk away, Valentina. Take Lucas and leave town. Your father's condition is delicate. He needs consistency, routine. My routine. You mean your drugs. I mean stability. Her voice hardens. Something you've been disrupting lately. Thomas was happy before you came back. Content. He was dying, Oliver cuts in. The toxicology reports. Davidson's gun shifts slightly. Oliver falls silent. Last chance, Elaine says. Give me the drive or start planning funerals. The USB drive feels heavy in my hand. Everything Mother died for, all the evidence we need. But Lucas's face flashes through my mind. Grandmother Maggie's defiant stance. How many more people will die for this truth? My phone buzzes again, not Lucas this time, but a text from an unknown number. Don't give in. Backup coming. Maggie. Of course she'd have a plan. I hold out the drive. Take it. Take everything. Just leave my family alone. Elaine's smile is triumphant as she reaches for it, but her fingers barely brush the plastic before sirens explode outside. Red and blue lights flood the office. FBI, voices shout from below. The building is surrounded. Davidson's gun swings toward me, but Oliver moves faster. They crash together as Elaine lunges for the drive. I stumble back, clutching Mother's evidence to my chest. You stupid girl, Elaine hisses, her composure shattered. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your father will never survive without me. Without the medication. You mean the poison? Grandmother Maggie's voice cuts through the chaos. She stands in the doorway, FBI agents flanking her. The same poison you used on my daughter-in-law when she got too close? Elaine's face goes white. For the first time, I see real fear in her eyes. The FBI swarms in. Davidson and Elaine are separated, cuffed, led away. But Elaine's words echo in my head. Father will never survive without her routine, her control, her drugs. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. Oliver touches my shoulder. Your father's being taken to the hospital. Detox won't be easy, but he'll live, I finish. He'll finally live. Outside, storm clouds gather. The real battle, helping Father recover, rebuilding what Elaine destroyed, is just beginning. But for now, watching her perfect world crumble feels like the first breath after drowning. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly, antiseptic white and unforgiving. Father's been in detox for 3 days. The doctors say the withdrawal could kill him, his system too dependent on whatever cocktail of drugs Elaine fed him for years. Coffee. Lucas appears beside me, offering a paper cup. He hasn't left my side since everything exploded, despite how I pushed him away. I don't deserve him. He's seizing again, I say instead of taking the coffee. They won't let me in. Through the window, I watch the medical team work. Father's body arches off the bed, fighting invisible demons. Fighting Elaine's poison, even now. My phone rings Oliver. Elaine's lawyer is pushing for bail. Davidson too. They're claiming your mother's evidence was obtained illegally. The coffee cup slips from Lucas's hand, spreading like blood across the sterile floor. A nurse rushes past with more medication for Father. That's not possible, I whisper. The FBI. The FBI's warrant was based on that evidence. If it's thrown out. Oliver's voice cracks. There's more. Dr. Reynolds was found dead in his cell an hour ago. Apparent suicide. The walls seem to close in. Our star witness gone. The evidence tainted. And Father, dying by inches while I watch helplessly. Valentina. Grandmother Maggie appears from the elevator, her face grave. The board of directors is meeting. They're voting to sell the company. Of course. With Father incapacitated and the scandal breaking, the vultures are circling. Everything he built, everything Mother died protecting. They can't. Lucas starts, but Maggie cuts him off. They can and they are. Marcus Davidson's holding company is the buyer. Her voice hardens. Even from jail, they're still destroying this family. A commotion erupts in Father's room. The heart monitor's alarm pierces the air. Doctors rush in as a nurse pushes me back. He's crashing, someone shouts. Get the crash cart. I press against the window, watching them fight for his life. His face is yellow, wasted, nothing like the strong man who once carried me on his shoulders. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Elaine's voice, smooth as poison. She stands at the end of the corridor, flanked by 2 guards. Her lawyer must have won the bail hearing. To destroy everything? You did this, I snarl, starting forward, but Lucas catches my arm. Did I? Her smile is razor sharp. I kept him stable, comfortable, but you had to dig up the past. Had to have your revenge. Now look at him. The monitors in Father's room scream louder. Someone calls for more epinephrine. Tell them to reinstate his medication, Elaine continues. My special blend. It's the only thing that will save him now. Or you can watch him die, knowing it's your fault. You're lying, but my voice shakes. What if she's right? Am I? Check his latest blood work. His system's shutting down without the compounds I developed. Compounds that, technically, don't exist. She steps closer, voice dropping. I can save him, but it'll cost you everything. The evidence. The company. Your precious revenge. The doctor emerges from Father's room, face grim. Miss Carter? We need to discuss your father's options. He's not responding to standard treatments. Elaine's smile widens. She knows she's won. Valentina don't. Maggie warns. Your mother is dead, I finish. And father will be too if. The words stick in my throat. Lucas's hand finds mine, squeezing tight. But even his strength can't help me now. The choice is impossible. Father's life or justice for mother's death. Tick-tock, Elaine whispers. What's it going to be? Through the window, Father's monitors continue their desperate chorus. His life slipping away with each beep. And me, standing here with mother's evidence burning a hole in my pocket, facing the ultimate price of revenge. Sometimes there are no right choices. Only the ones we can live with. Or die with. The hospital lab is deserted at midnight. I watch Elaine measure precise amounts of clear liquid into Father's 4-bag, her movements practiced, efficient. The security camera's red light blinks silently above us, Oliver's team recording everything. You know what's fascinating about pharmaceutical compounds? Elaine doesn't look up from her work. How the same substance can heal or kill, depending on the dosage. My phone buzzes in my pocket, the signal. The FBI has everything they need. Like the cocktail you used on Mother? My voice stays steady, even as my hands shake. Or was that just straight poison? The syringe pauses. Your mother was going to destroy everything. Just like you're trying to do now. She turns, something wild in her eyes. I gave Thomas everything. Stability. Success. A future. You gave him chains. Poison wrapped in pretty lies. I gave him peace. The syringe trembles in her grip. Do you know what it's like watching someone you love destroy themselves with guilt and regret? The medication helped him forget. Helped him move forward. By erasing Mother? By turning him into your puppet. By saving him from the truth. She steps closer, voice dropping. The truth about what really happened the night your mother died. About who was really driving the car. The world tilts sideways. What? Thomas was behind the wheel that night. Too drunk to drive, but convinced he had to get to some emergency board meeting. Your mother tried to stop him. They fought. She grabbed the wheel. Elaine's smile is razor sharp. I helped him forget that part. Helped him build a new life. And you want to destroy that. My throat closes. You're lying. Am I? Check your mother's diary again. The entries she never finished. Ask yourself why she was really meeting with Davidson that night. The lab door opens. Lucas stands there, face grim. Val, your father's awake. He's asking for you. Don't. Elaine's hand shoots out, grabs my arm. The syringe glints. One dose of this, and he forgets everything. Goes back to being happy. Isn't that better than the truth? I look at the 4-bag, at the clear liquid that's kept Father prisoner for years. At Elaine's desperate eyes and trembling hands. The truth is, I say quietly, you never loved him. You loved controlling him. Everything I did was for yourself. I pull free of her grip. The FBI has your formula now. They're analyzing every compound, every transaction, every death connected to you and Davidson. It's over. Her composure shatters. The syringe comes up, aimed at my throat. I won't lose everything. Not again. Not to another self-righteous bitch who thinks she knows best. Drop it, Elaine. Oliver's voice cuts through the tension. He stands in the doorway, gun trained on her. FBI agents flood the lab. But Elaine's laugh is wild, unhinged. You still don't understand. Your father signed everything over to me years ago. The company, the assets, everything. Even if you lock me away, you'll never get it back. Check again. Grandmother Maggie appears, holding up her phone. Thomas just signed new papers. Properly witnessed. Properly notarized. While you were here, playing with your poisons. The syringe clatters to the floor. Elaine's perfect mask crumples completely. He wouldn't, she whispers. He needs me. The medication. He chose truth, I say softly. Even with all its pain. He chose to remember. The FBI moves in. Elaine doesn't resist as they cuff her, read her rights. But her eyes find mine one last time. The truth will destroy him, she hisses. And that destruction will be on your hands. Maybe she's right. Maybe truth is its own kind of poison. But as I watch them lead her away, I think of Mother's unfinished diary entry, of Father fighting through withdrawal to sign those papers, of all the years lost to Elaine's careful lies. Sometimes healing only comes after the poison is purged. Sometimes love means choosing truth, no matter how much it hurts. I turn toward Father's room, toward whatever truth awaits. Lucas's hand finds mine, warm and steady. It's time to finish what Mother started. The lake house windows reflect the setting sun, turning them to sheets of fire. Father stands at the water's edge, stronger now after weeks of rehabilitation. The tremors in his hands have almost stopped. Your mother loved this view, he says as I join him. His voice is clearer these days, free of Elaine's chemical fog. The last time we were here together. He trails off. We both know what happened that night. The argument, the drinking, the desperate grab for the steering wheel. Some truths don't need words. I found this in Mother's study. I hand him the unfinished diary entry. She wasn't meeting Davidson to expose you. She was meeting him to protect you. She'd discovered Elaine's connection to the other corporate takedowns. His hands shake as he reads. All these years I thought. Elaine made me believe. She made you forget. But Mother never stopped fighting for you. Inside the house, Lucas and Grandmother Maggie are unpacking boxes. We're reclaiming this place, piece by piece. The lake house was never meant to be Davidson's trophy. My phone buzzes. Oliver's update on Elaine's trial. Her carefully constructed empire is crumbling. Davidson's turning state's evidence against her, desperate to save himself. But I don't read the message to Father. Some victories don't need announcing. I don't deserve forgiveness, Father says quietly. Maybe not. I watch a boat cut across the lake, leaving ripples in its wake. But Mother understood something I'm just learning. Revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about breaking free. He turns, really looks at me for the first time since the hospital. When did you get so wise? When I stopped letting anger write my story. Lucas appears on the deck, carrying Mother's old wind chimes. The ones Elaine banished to the attic years ago. Their gentle music fills the air as he hangs them. The board meeting's tomorrow, Father says. They want me to resume control of the company. Are you ready? No. He smiles slightly. But I'm done hiding from hard things. Grandmother Maggie joins us, carrying a familiar leather-bound book. Mother's recipe journal, the one where she coded her investigation notes between instructions for pot roast and apple pie. Her final act of protection, hidden in plain sight. Found something interesting, Maggie says, opening to a marked page. Your mother's last entry. It wasn't unfinished after all. The message appears under UV light, written in Mother's distinctive hand. My dearest Val, if you're reading this, you've already chosen truth over comfort. That's all any mother could hope for her child. Some battles aren't about winning. They're about choosing who we become in the fighting. Love, Mom. The words blur as Father's arm circles my shoulders. Behind us, Lucas and Maggie start dinner preparations, their voices mixing with the wind chimes song. Who do you think she'd be proud of now? Father asked softly. I watched the sun sink behind the trees, painting the lake in shades of gold and shadow. Somewhere across town, Elaine sits in a cell, surrounded by the ruins of her careful plans. But her ghost no longer haunts us. Both of us, I answer, for finally choosing truth. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of approaching rain. Storm clouds gather on the horizon, not threatening, but promising renewal. Like Mother knew they would. I leave Father at the water's edge, letting him have this moment with his memories. In the kitchen, Lucas catches my hand, pulls me into a dance to music only we can hear. Grandmother Maggie pretends not to watch, smiling as she chops vegetables. The wind chimes sing their broken melody, mixing past with present. Some songs never end. They just change key, become something new, something stronger. Like us, like truth, like love.